I would never have used AI. I would have probably gone the old-fashioned way. I'm a movie maker, and I believe in big motion pictures, 70mm theatrical experiences.
Thank you both for taking the time to speak to ITV. We are hugely appreciative. Stephen, can I come to you first, if that's okay? I know you've always been fascinated by what's in the sky, potentially beyond the realms of conventional Earth, but what was the catalyst for the Disclosure Day story?
Well, the catalyst was when the information about what has been in our skies and interacting with us for all these years that was considered by some people to be conspiracy theories, ufology, a whole genre called ufology. When it started to become a little more upper echelon, that when the reports weren't just coming from mainstream, daily walk of life people, but it was coming from Air Force pilots, Navy jet fighter pilots. It was coming from the halls of Congress. It was coming from whistleblowers inside our intelligence community in DC. When all of this started to reach a critical mass in 2017, the New York Times came out with a very important story. And because it was the New York Times, and because Helene Cooper and Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Kean took a byline on the story, three very august writers, that brought the term tic-tac to the world. Some kind of unconventional, something in our skies that was outmaneuvering the state of the art in terms of our own jet technology, outmaneuvering it completely, coming down from 80,000 feet to 1,000 feet in 4 seconds. That's impossible, but it was happening. And when the mainstream media started taking this seriously, it rekindled in 2017 my interest, which was reflective in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and then E.T. and War of the Worlds. I suddenly started to look at this in a more realistic way, not as science fiction, but as something that was possibly starting to disclose itself.
Josh, I imagine having Mr. Spielberg involved in the project was a big selling point for you, but looking back at the work you've done in the past, what draws you to a role? What draws you to a specific project? Is it the script, or is it potentially what you think you could do with it?
Yeah, well, you're right to say you can't take out the Steven factor. Obviously, it's a dream for any actor to work with Steven, but so there's that initially. But also, actually, generally speaking, there is a sense of, I think a director who has a clear vision is always very attractive and helpful. But then in terms of character, I think the actors that I aspire to, people like Tom Hanks, Robin Williams, Gene Wilder, people who have had diverse careers where they can do comedy and then they can do tragedy, they can do action, they can, that is the ultimate dream. I think about the younger me at drama school, and why I was so drawn to Shakespeare, for instance, is that you have that diversity of character across Shakespeare's works or in the theatre. So this is, Daniel Kellner is a character that I don't think I've ever done before. Certainly never done the kind of the action elements, but really as an arc, someone who really has no sense, has a really strong sense of what's right and what's just and the inequality of information, but someone who has a little understanding of this gap in their memory or this feeling of unease about something that's happened to them. That felt like something I wanted to explore.
When I first saw the trailer, I was fully captivated. Stephen, what is the science behind a good trailer? Because it feels like in recent years, in some projects, you see the whole film in 2 minutes.
I don't believe in that. The sign for me of a good trailer basically is less is more. It's just kind of priming the engine of public interest, but not over fueling it. Not putting too much out there. Some audiences like to see the whole film in 2.5 minutes. because then when they go to see the movie, they say, "Oh, I saw that, and I've seen that scene before." But the element of surprise is missing, you know. And I think the element of surprise is the whole reason I got into movies to begin with, you know, because the best needs to be saved for the experience, not given away for just to prime the engine.
Josh, there's a couple of other Brits in this project, but I think of Colin Firth and the role he plays. I would say British actors are fantastic at being goodies, but weirdly we're even better at being baddies. Why do you think that is?
It's a good point. I don't. I mean, I think the British accent is something. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, listen, Colin is extraordinary as a baddie, isn't he? I mean, is he a baddie? That's another question. But
That's another question.
Yeah,
that's questionable.
Colin's an extraordinary actor,
Yeah.
and he can do almost anything. So, in terms of why we, it's funny. I guess there's something about our accents that are sort of, I don't know.
Stephen, I wanted to ask about the power of light, because it was something I really noticed during the film. Light through a window, through a doorway, a glare on the screen. What does light give you as a medium of storytelling, or almost subtext in what you're able to provide? Because it was quite prominent in the film when I watched it.
Yeah, well, light is, we can't make a movie without it, obviously. It's all light and shadow. You can't have shadow without light. And so when I see something that really sparks my attention, draws my attention, it usually has something to do with contrast between light and shadow. And I don't use light symbolically as much, but I like to think that we follow light, and that if we're in a dark room, we immediately look to see where the exit is. You know, and if we see a little safe light coming through a crack in the wall, we can always think, this movie's really scaring me, but I can always run out that way. So light, I kind of use light a little bit to draw the audience in. Like, not a little bit, I use it a lot to draw an audience in. And I've got a great cinematographer, Janusz Kaminski. We've made every film together since Schindler's List in 1993. And he is a master of light.
One thing I heard Emily say during a recent interview was when it came to making those alien voices, that there was the option to use artificial intelligence, or there was the option to do it herself. The choice to go with that organic approach, with it coming from the actor. Do you think that aids in the realism of the project as well?
Yeah, I would never have made the choice, even if Emily was unable to produce the sounds that she did produce, by the way, organically. I would never have used AI. I would have probably gone the old-fashioned way. You get a dolphin, or you get an elephant, and you slow it down, or you speed it up, or you play it backwards. Gary Wrightstrom, who designed the sound for the entire film, who's won many Oscars for sound design, would have found a way if Emily couldn't have produced it. But fortunately, Emily produced all those sounds herself.
As someone who works in news, there's a sequence, without giving too much away, there's a sequence where we start to get an understanding that this is becoming more in the public domain.
Yes.
You see all the monitors start to take it from the different news channels. That was one of the few times being in a cinema I genuinely felt like goosebumps, because having worked in that environment for a number of years, but then also seeing it made me feel something in that way. How do you think we as a society would react when a real life disclosure day could potentially occur? Would everybody be happy to be in the know, or do you think that some would prefer that the lid stay on for the future? I
think there would be such a variety of responses. I don't think there would be one overriding response. Some people will say, I knew it all along, and I've been preparing myself all along, and it doesn't disturb me. Other people will feel the ontological shock of social dislocation, that this is turning my fundamental mental beliefs and what I consider to be fundamental reality upside down, and would not be able to handle as well. I think it brings theological questions into the conversation, into the center of the conversation. I think it would be everybody would have a unique reaction to this. I know I would.
Josh, has your perception of potentially extraterrestrial life changed since working on this project? Has it made you delve into the subject a little bit greater?
For sure, I've delved into the subject more. I mean, I would say that I was always open to. I think it's very kind of straightforward. If you look up at the sky at night, it's very easy to imagine that we're probably not alone. So that I never struggled with that. But what was great is that Steven has such a knowledge of this stuff that as soon as we started working together, Steven would share information with me, and then I would call excitedly about something that I'd watched, a documentary he sent me. Or
talked about that a lot.
And so it's changed in the sense that I think that there is no doubting it. The sort of the information is out there. I'm just kind of curious to have more of it released, and actually more than anything, for the witnesses who have talked about these visitations and been very often made to feel stupid, lost careers, and so more than anything, it's sort of for an element of justice for them, I think.
Yeah, it's vindication for them, for those who were debunked with entire disinformation campaigns, often targeting people who claim to have been abducted or claim to have had extraordinary things happen to them. And in the 1950s and 60s, there was a methodical debunking campaign started with an Air Force project called Project Blue Book, where most of these sightings were attributed to swamp gas or ball lightning or scientific explanations or Venus. There's so many times the Air Force said, well, the people were really seeing Venus, except Venus doesn't move across the sky making 90-degree turns, like some people report these things do. So I think it would be great vindication for people who have actually had experiences and seen these things.
Speaking of seeing these things, I'm so glad that the press screening for this was in a cinema, because very often we end up getting, screeners with your email burnt all over them.
No, I would never let that happen.
It's such a amazing viewing experience on the big screen. What do you think viewers get from seeing things in a communal setting, but in giant quality right in front of them that they don't get from a phone or a laptop or a TV?
Well, they get to be part of how movies were born. They get to be part of something that happened in the early 20th century, where people got into large halls, often dance halls, burlesque halls, pubs, and had a crude projector flickering and sending an image to a sheet hanging from the ceiling, and yet it was a communal space, and people were there unfamiliar with each other, a place where strangers congregate, and in disagreement or agreement, they are in agreement on one thing. They have a response all at the same time to the images that they're getting from the screen. So the idea of sending little DVDs, to individuals to watch a movie, if I did that, I would be happy to work for Netflix and make a movie for Netflix and know that it's only going to be seen by millions of people on their home screens. But I'm a movie maker, and I believe in big motion pictures, 70mm theatrical experiences, and with great sound and a tremendous bright projection return, and people in a theater, because I think the energy to sit in a theater, a filled up theater, you feel the energy of strangers. You laugh harder because you're encouraged to laugh when everybody's laughing. You scream louder when something scary happens and the whole theater erupts. I know what it was like to see Jaws and make Jaws and preview Jaws, and when Ben Gardner's head came out of the hole in the boat, I saw popcorn flying and people screaming. I mean that you don't get sitting at home by yourself. You'll still scream, but it's not as much fun if you're alone or with 5 other people. So I'm always going to make my movies first and foremost for the big venues.
Josh, just lastly from me, if you could insert yourself into one of Steven's previous projects as a character, any character, which one would you have loved to have been in?
Well, it's changed. I've been asked this question before, and it's changed a couple of times. I would like to throw myself into one particular room in one particular film, which is the buffet room in Jurassic Park. but for fear of the threat, I probably wouldn't. And then the other day, I answered it with The Terminal. And described why I'd love that. And I was with Emily and Coleman, and they said to me, Josh, you could just do that. They were like, go to the airport and do it. But the truth is, I think the world of E.T. would be the place I'd go, just purely for the optimism, the nostalgia for me. That film is so impactful to me and a lot of my generation and other generations. I think it would be that. But I have to mention the other two as honourable mentions.
Yeah.
Amazing. Disclosure Day is fantastic. I can't wait for people to see it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
so much for your time.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rishi.
Thank you so much.